adding and subtracting decimals is very similar to adding and subtracting ordinary numbers. The algorithm we use says, just like adding and subtracting ordinary numbers, integers, set up our question, one above the other, building the building, as somebody said, and line up the place values. In this case, with decimals, it's even easier because we line up the decimal points. So we're adding numbers that have the same values. The 6 in 36.32 means 6 units, and the 5 in 15.1 means 5 units. So in that column, we're adding up the units. As always, start from the smallest end. Now it's a little bit tricky on our first example because 15.1, there's no digit underneath the 2. So we can just assume there's a 0, and then we add. 2 plus 0 is 2, nothing to carry. 3 plus 1 is 4, nothing to carry. Put down our decimal point when you get to it. 6 plus 5 is 11. Put down the 1, carry the 1. 3 plus 1 plus 1 is 5. Very similar to adding with normal integers. Again, the same for subtracting. 20.08 minus 3.6. Again, we line up the decimal points. If we've got a gap where we need a 0, just put that in. You'll see it doesn't change the meaning of that number. And we subtract as normal. 8 minus 0, well, that's 8. But 0 minus 6, we're going to have to borrow. So we can't borrow from the next 0 because there's nothing there to borrow. So we'll be borrowing from the 2, leaving that as a 1 and adding 1 to the units column. So that becomes 10, but we'll need to borrow from that 2 and make that a 9. So remember, all that borrowing can get complicated. So then I've borrowed, I've got 10 minus 6 is 4. Don't forget your decimal point. 9 minus 3 is 6, and 1 minus 0 is 1. We've got our answer. One last example. 3.0 minus 1.001. We must line up the decimal points, but now see what's happened. I've got this gap on the top. Well then, just put a 0 in the hundredths and a 0 in the thousandths. 3.000, we haven't changed the meaning. And we're going to have to borrow all the way to do 0 minus 1. Borrow from the 3 to here, borrow from there to here, borrow from there to here, all that borrowing. 10 minus 1 is 9, 9 minus 0 is 9, 9 minus 0 is 9, and 2 minus 1 is 1. Be very careful with your borrowing. But really, that's it. Adding and subtracting decimals, very similar to integers.